When every other kid was studying for school or focusing on school, I was up all night studying each Michael Jordan sneaker.
They would brag about how expensive Don Julio is. Tell these guys that you actually introduced Don Julio to the country.
I started off at like around 8 years old. I would sell all the old clothes in my house. 3 o'clock in the morning every night, phoning up, emailing every single company that I could think of on the internet. It's not for everyone to drop out of school. You need education. Education is important as much as it wasn't for me. Find something you're super passionate about and focus on that. Focus at becoming the best at what you love. No, my whole house was full. My garage, my sister's bedrooms, our living room, the whole house was full of sneakers. And then eventually I dropped out of school in about grade 10. Someone who I really look up to is Black Coffee, you know, the DJ who I've done some work with, and you know, we've done a lot of cool stuff together.
Right, guys, welcome to It's More Than Just Money, where we dive into conversations with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers who are making a difference in the South African business landscape and abroad. My name is Witness Mtaka. I'm your host, and I'm sitting here with Josh Weinberg, a phenomenal entrepreneur, businessman. He's only 21. Man, you look like you just came out of Bar Mitzvah. You're going to make these old people feel like I need to go back and redo my youth. But it seems you spent most of your teenage years building a business. Can you take us through around your background, how you started, and the passion behind that?
Definitely. So, guys, thank you for joining us today. Witness, thank you for inviting me here. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you guys this morning. And I'll go all the way back. I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but this started from a young age. I had, you know, the urge always to try and make money, wanting to sell stuff. I started off at like around 8 years old. I would sell all the old clothes in my house. You know, it wasn't nothing could get thrown away in my house. I would go and resell it to the coaches at school, to Uber drivers, to the ground staff at the school, and then it kind of evolved from there to whenever anyone in the area, family would upgrade every 2 years their phones, I would go and buy their old phones and then resell those old phones to restaurant workers, butchery workers. And that's how it kind of all started, you know, like a real hustle. And then at around 12 years old, I fell in love with sneakers. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the whole sneaker market. It's something that's like super interesting, and it may just seem like a tacky or a sneaker to you, but it's a whole world and a cult following that goes behind it. And each shoe has a storyline and a limited edition run and a design process. So I fell in love with shoes. When every other kid was studying for school or focusing on school, I was up all night studying each Michael Jordan sneaker, each storyline behind when they were releasing, how were they releasing, how I could get my hands on a pair. I would wake up most mornings, 4 o'clock in the morning, queuing up outside Sports Scene and a few of the other retailers just to get my hands on a few of these very, very limited edition sneakers.
That's at 12 years old?
12 years old, sure. Yes. And, you know, it started off as just a real love and a passion, which I think really, you know, did me well because I was passionate about what I did. And it was just for myself in the beginning because I was just so mad about these sneakers. And it grew into realizing that this is actually a very lucrative trade and a business that I could formalize. And, you know, by 13 years old, I was reselling shoes on a small scale, 10, 20, 30 pairs. But these shoes are extremely...
20 pairs a month or a year?
Yeah, like a month. A month. Okay. It's very, very, very lucrative. You can buy a pair of sneakers for 2,500 Rand. And if it's the right demand and not a lot of supply and demand, and you could resell it for 300,000%. Like seriously, like there's...
So meaning you can buy 2.5 and sell 7.5.
So for like an example, the Off-White Jordan 1 Chicago, which released on Nike.co.za, released in 2016. It released for 2,100 Rand, and they're currently selling now for 150,000 Rand.
But Josh, at 12 years old, How did you know these things?
That's what I was saying to you. I
Yeah.
kind of, school was something that was not exciting for me. I could not fit into the box. I was not,
Quiet, guys. You guys are excited, eh?
I didn't fit into the mold. I always swam against the stream. And luckily enough, I found somewhere where, I created my own path. It wasn't that I followed the conventional path that most kids do. I had to go and create my own, and it, thank God, really worked out with my parents behind me, and they supported me, because it wasn't definitely scary for a parent, I guess, from 12 years old, like you're saying, waking up at 4 a.m. and selling things and hustling and not focusing on school. And then eventually I dropped out of school in about grade 10 and focused on this full time, which is controversial. I know all the parents won't be too happy to pass that message on.
But you probably dropped out of St. David's, eh?
No. I dropped out in grade 10, but then I actually did do an online American matric. My mom was insistent. It wasn't negotiable. So I found another hustle. I found an online matric. So I did get that piece of paper.
So you do have matric?
I do. And then, the story just kind of, slowly evolved and evolved into like 20 pairs, 30 pairs, 50 pairs a month, into eventually, at around 14 years old, the main sneaker hub is New York City. And that's really where it's like the culture is a boiling pot there. And that's where it all comes from. So when the celebrities there wear a pair of shoes on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, everyone else around the world wants them. And I wanted to, be the first in line to see what was actually going on the ground, not wait in South Africa for it to come and see, and maybe you can make money, maybe I can sell it. I wanted to go where it came from. So I went and spent a lot of time in the States, kind of learning the sneaker culture, working with like a few international brands that I really learned a lot from. Shadowed some of the biggest sneaker stores in the world for months at a time. And this was all at about 15, 16 years old. So it was a really exciting but scary and lonely process, to be fair.
What are some of the pivotal moments?
So, COVID was definitely a huge pivotal moment. So all of this was just really passionate. And yes, it was lucrative and nice and fun, but it was a hustle. And then in COVID, we hit lockdown, and I had this idea. I was like, everyone thought the world was going to end. And I thought to myself, no one knew COVID was coming. All the shoes were already manufactured. The sneaker brands had already released it. The stores had already had their stock. What's going to happen with all the stock lying in South Africa, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Pretoria, Durban? And we hit COVID, and all the malls were closed and everything was shut. So I thought to myself, Jesus, these shoes are just sitting there. Let me see if there's an angle here. And I went out on a mission to contact like every retailer I could, through a network. And I got hold of TFG, the Adidas warehouse, and then a lot of like private sellers, for example, DJs and celebrities, a lot of their income dried up. So they needed to sell their sneaker collections, to live.
You put their shoes.
And I got an essentials license from a close friend of mine who had a security company. I didn't have a driver's license, so I had to hire a guy to drive a truck for me. And we went driving around the city in COVID level 5 lockdown with an essentials license. I went through army roadblocks on the highway filled with a couple thousand pairs of shoes in the back. And that's
collecting them from celebrities and retailers
all around the country. Anyone who had sneakers that were brand new in the country, I thought to myself that I could pick them up for people who needed, the income, and retailers wanted to just clear the stock because they were shut. And I thought to myself, you know what? I think the world's definitely going to come around. The world's not over like everyone thought. And this is a good opportunity to purchase stock now, sit on it for a little bit. And then when things ease up and things get better, I'll resell it. And luckily enough, it wasn't just that. It actually blew up. So I managed to acquire about 10,000 pairs of shoes in that process. I used my bar mitzvah money. I borrowed from my grandfather, my grandmother, my sisters, anyone who had any bit of money, I borrowed money from. That was about a 2-3 month process of literally every day just buying out sneakers, and acquired about 10,000 pairs, like I said.
And where were you putting these sneakers?
No, my whole house was full. My garage, my sister's bedrooms, our living room, the whole house was full of sneakers. I'll show you pictures, but the entire house was full of sneakers. And then COVID didn't ease for months and months and months. So I thought, oh God, I'm done. I thought, you know what? My dad said I'm done. Everyone said I'm done. The house was full of sneakers and we were still locked at home. No one was buying shoes. And luckily enough, after a few months, I don't know if any of you will remember, but on Netflix, there was a documentary about Michael Jordan called The Last Dance. and millions and millions and millions of people were at home watching that documentary, and people went mad for Jordans. Everyone wanted a pair of Jordans. And then you phoned up Sports Scene when they opened up and they had no Jordans.
Because you bought them.
Josh had their Jordans. And so I was very lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. And I had the monopoly on sneakers in the town for Jordans, Yeezys, and a bunch of other things. But really, Jordans everyone wanted a pair of Jordans. And that was my first big break. So that, flipped about 10,000 pairs of shoes at the end of 2020. And I wasn't done. There was a marketplace in the US that I had my eyes on. It's called StockX. It's the biggest sneaker marketplace in the world. It was valued at $2.5 billion last year. And my dream, after doing this big deal, I was like, oh, okay, now I can do it. My dream was to work with this massive marketplace. And after having this big deal and doing the right things, I had a bit of money and I thought, okay, let's do arbitrage trading. So I could buy stock here. There's the supply chain had opened up. Stock was coming into the country. COVID was easing up. Let me buy up stock here in rands and partner with this marketplace and sell it in dollars, because they're based in Detroit and they sell all over the US. So, it took some time. They were like South Africa and a kid, like, what is this? And eventually we worked together and I landed up sending thousands and thousands of pairs of them every week. There would be an order and I'd try to fulfill it in South Africa. We'd send it, I'd buy it in rands, we'd send it in dollars, send it in dollars, send it in dollars. And that was also a really awesome experience to, at my age, that was at about 17, 18 years old, to be working with the biggest marketplace in the world. Was unbelievable, and to learn and see the systems and how advanced they were in terms of authenticating sneakers and packaging sneakers. It was just unbelievable.
But tell me something, Josh. How did you know that as a kid? How did you know what a market is, what a need is, what an opportunity is? Where did you learn all those things?
It's a good question, because it's something hard to explain, but as a normal kid would go and be able to do maths or science or English, to me that makes no sense. I can't open a book and study and think. I'm struggling to sit down here while with you. I'm very ADD.
I can tell you can't sit. You can't sit still.
I can't sit still. So for me, honestly, it just makes sense to fill a gap. It's what I've done my whole life. So if there's any gaps I can fill in the market, I love to do that. But it possibly also goes down to, it's in my blood. My great-grandfather came to this country with nothing. He slept on a supermarket floor because he was a cashier, and he worked his way up to the manager of the store. Then he went on to owning the store. Then he opened up a butchery. Then he opened up a bank. So it's definitely in my blood. My father does property, so he's been in that game for some years. My grandfather ran big South Africa. So it's in my blood, But to be fair, as everyone may think, oh, okay, his grandfather and his father backed him. That's the simple way. That's how he became successful. Yeah. They thought I was crazy.
But before we tell them, during around COVID time and after, I saw adults going crazy drinking Don Julio, right? And they would brag about how expensive Don Julio is. Tell these guys that you actually introduced Don Julio to the country.
No, not exactly, but I'll clarify that.
And how did you know that's a market? Because during COVID, at the same time, there were alcohol restrictions, and you saw an opportunity to distribute that into the country.
So I'll finish just on the sneaker thing. So everyone may have that, thought that, oh wow, it was simple. My family thought I was crazy, reselling sneakers. I had to go borrow money from other investors. My family wouldn't back this idea in the beginning. And then once that took off, and it really did take off, thank God, the sneakers really, really was on fire. And then a close friend of mine, who I've been close to and has helped me throughout the process of this business. He's a lot older than me. He's about 40 years old, and he's like my best friend. And he came to me and he said, "You've done so well with shoes." Sorry, I don't know if that's old, guys. Touchy subject.
Touchy subject, sorry. Yeah. Tough crowd, isn't
double
it?
my age. He came to me and he said, "You've done so well with the sneakers. You know how to import it. You've got importing licenses. You've done everything at such a young age."
And how long had you been doing the sneakers?
The sneakers had been about 3-4 years. This was 2021 now. So we were still in COVID, but things were a lot, simpler. to say that wasn't that heavy lockdown. Everyone was kind of socializing and getting out there. And there was a huge shortage of tequila around the world because the plant that tequila comes from, the agave plant, there was a harvesting issue in Mexico, and in COVID, there was a glass shortage. So South Africa, being the bottom of the world, was the last place the big companies were going to send their tequila to. Miami and New York and Paris and Tokyo, that's number one priority. We in Johannesburg were the last on the list. But luckily
we were
for
the
me,
biggest drinkers.
Exactly. We know how to have more fun than all of them put together.
Exactly.
So me thinking, I was like, there's something to be done here. We could maybe make a plan. And my friend said, come on, you got to do it. And I was like, I'm not even legal in America. I'm not legal to buy alcohol.
Were you even 18?
I was 18 here, but in America, I couldn't buy alcohol. I was illegal.
Sure.
And so I embarked on this plan on trying to bring tequila into the country. And it was very tough in the beginning. It was a lot tougher than sneakers. I had to relearn a whole new market. I knew nothing about the alcohol trade. It was a different language. I had known the sneakers so well. So to shift, the ideas and the way you do things is tough, because you got to shift your mindset. But after about 6-7 months, I had worked with a company in Mexico after, literally, I promise you, it sounds simple and, he just made a phone call.
How did you build these international relationships? But you'll get into that.
People won't believe, in terms of alcohol, I literally started off, I would work till 3 o'clock in the morning every night, phoning up, emailing every single company that I could think of on the internet. In Mexico, distribution companies, Diageo, which owns Don Julio internationally. I emailed anything that came up with tequila on the internet, I was emailing till 3-4 in the morning. And eventually I got in touch with a distribution company in San Diego, which is on the border of Mexico. And I started working with them, and they were also like this kid, Actually, thank God they didn't know how old I was in the beginning, which was made things a little easier. And they started off sending me 6 bottles of Don Julio, which is the best tequila brand in the world. And that's the brand I decided I wanted to work with. I thought that, alcohol is so tough as it is, but bring in a brand that's already established and massive. So I thought, let me work on, exactly like selling a Michael Jordan. The marketing work's done for you. So Don Julio, that marketing work was done for me. And they started off sending 20 bottles, 30 bottles, 50 bottles. It was tricky.
And who were you selling these bottles to?
Those original bottles were just, some guys who I knew I liked tequila. And in the beginning, people were not sure, is it genuine product? Isn't it genuine product? My first batch actually cracked in transit. So I arrived there and I had broken bottles. I'm not used to that, having to package things differently because it's glass. And then slowly but surely it started taking off. And eventually I started selling a little bit to Norman Goodfellows. Then I sold to Spa. Then it went from 20 bottles, 60 bottles, 70 bottles, 100 bottles, 200 bottles. Then eventually we filled up half a container, which is 1,000 bottles. And this was mid-year 2021. And then I thought to myself, geez, December's coming. And
2021, yeah.
2021, December's coming, and there's still no sound of anyone else bringing in this Don Julio tequila. And I was like, no, we got to go big. And we filled up a full container from Mexico.
So how do you determine those kind of things? Exactly that, where you realize that, okay, it's only 1,000 you've sold, December is coming. How do you determine now we have to scale this thing and have more?
So I definitely think it's reading your customer base, and kind of using common sense. Okay, so you've sold 1,000 bottles in. You've sold 1,000 bottles, in the middle of the year, and people in festive season go crazy. So you just kind of, I'm not going to have enough to meet the demand in festive season unless I pull up my socks and make something happen, And that's kind of how I thought it. But it was tough. I remember suppliers thinking I was mad. What are you doing with this? It's going to be too much. It's going to be crazy.
Did they not know the product?
No. So, there was huge demand for the product. But in terms of the suppliers in Mexico that I was dealing with, they were very happy. But they were how are we going to do this? How are we going to fulfill these orders, etc.? And I was like, let's go for it. And to answer your question on there, I think I've got a big risk for appetite. Appetite for risk, sorry.
Got a big risk for appetite.
I've got a big appetite for risk. I like taking chances. I'm young. So, I really wanted to give it a go. I could have lost everything I had because I had invested everything now into tequila. We put an order in for a full container, which is a couple thousand bottles. And this was of 1942 Don Julio. It's not even the small bottle. We were selling these to the retailers for 6,000 Rand a bottle. and the retailers were selling it for 8, 9, and then the clubs were selling it for 18,000 rand a bottle.
I told you it's expensive.
Yeah. And it arrived here, when I tell you, I swear, 7 days before New Year's. And I was sweating because I had missed already before Christmas season. I'd missed Christmas season, and I was sweating because now I've got, 6,000, 7,000 bottles to sell. And how am I going to sell it? New Year's is the last, big bash, I think, that I could make it work.
Sure.
And I literally went with different cars, and we went hotel to hotel in Cape Town. We sold to every single hotel. We sold to every single nightclub. We sold to nightclubs in Pretoria, Midrand, Sandton. We sold to Johnny's Liquor, Pick and Pay, Macro. Everyone was just getting their hands on this bottle, even if it didn't sell in the festive season, they wanted to have it in January. It was that type of a bottle. And we sold out first thing. And that was like the Don Julio story, which was unbelievable and exciting. Got to see a whole new world and crazy things, good things, bad things.
But in all of those things, you had people that were working for you and you were working with, right?
The tequila side was more informal than people think. It was probably a driver, myself, and someone who helped me with the accounting side. That's how. And
you sold thousands of bottles.
Thousands of bottles, like thousands, like really thousands. I had all the distributors in the country, like a Norman Goodfellas and a Johnny's Liquor, which are massive.
Yeah.
They supply thousands of shebeens, restaurants, bars, clubs. And they were so irritated by me, how's this kid doing this? They
say it's common sense.
Yes.
Right? You'd be surprised how not so common actually it is. Because if it was common sense, we would all be doing it.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to how you look at a market, starting small from one pair of sneaker or 1 or 6 bottles of Don Julio or the first store, what goes on in your mind? What is the big picture that you see? I want to understand that part.
I'm a huge dreamer. So when I start off, I always dream of that thousands of bottles. But I do follow the process. I start off with that 6 bottles. I keep trying and I never give up. Both with the sneakers and the tequila, I got turned back hundreds of times. People thought I was mad. People thought it was a crazy idea. People didn't believe in it. People, kept on saying, no. I kept on hearing, no, we're not buying this. We're not doing that. You don't have a liquor license. You're too young. You're this, you're that. And eventually I said, okay, you know what? If I don't have a liquor license, I'll get one. If I don't have an importer's license, I'll get one. And I never accepted the word no. And I tried over and over again to make it possible, and I never gave up. But whether it be till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, figuring out a plan. And yes, it seems very complicated, but I tried, and I really believe this, and I've said this on a few other interviews I've had, is that if I can do it, anyone in South Africa can do it. I know, it may seem not, and it's impossible, but I promise you it can be done. Someone who I really look up to is Black Coffee, the DJ who I've done some work with, and, we've done a lot of cool stuff together. And
was he part of the launch when you launched the store?
He was. So we'll get on to that. And he's the perfect example of someone who came not from the best background. He was born locally. And I think he's the perfect representation of the South African dream. He's now, we don't even realize as South Africans how big he is internationally.
It's big.
Nati is as big as you get. I promise you. He can phone up any celebrity. He can play with any celebrity. And he comes from right here. Do you know what I'm saying? And if he can do it, anyone can. And that's what I believe with myself too. That's what I looked at.
So from being the guy that's distributing stuff alone, how do you transition to being a businessman that's now building businesses?
Yeah. So, after that Don Julio craze that we just spoke about, Don Julio saw this kid doing what he was doing in South Africa, and they actually were like, nah, we got to come to South Africa directly. And I got cut out. Okay. And now they came to the country. There was just Don Julio everywhere. You go into any top spa, you go into any blue bottles.
A licensing agreement?
Not just yet, because they were not sure if they wanted to give it. They always clever, they want to, see if it makes sense for them to come to the country. So they started bringing it in directly, and this place was just full of Don Julio, and I was like, oh no, man, I missed out. I had my fun, and everyone was like, bro, you did so well. Boy, you did so well. Just, pat yourself on the back. It's done. Your day's over. And again, I said, no, it's not. And met with a couple other friends and went back to this.
You made the comrades buy Slay Queen's Don Julio. they finished the money, chief.
Yeah.
The PPE money during COVID
came to me. all the tender money comes to me now for sneakers. So I love the
It's
government,
balanced,
guys.
isn't
Yeah, we
it?
balance it out as well. So I went back to this friend mentor of mine and I said to him, like, what do I do? And he said, you know what? Why don't you make your own tequila brand? And I was like, no, bro, you wanted me to sell tequila. I did that. It was nearly impossible. Now you want me to go and make my own tequila brand. Another level. And then again, left that coffee with him or whatever it was, and it started ticking in my brain. No, maybe it's not such a bad idea.
Yeah.
And for
So
about
the friend is also your mentor.
exactly. And for the next year, so 2021 ended. For the next year of 2022, I was like, I want to make my own tequila brand. And it took months of meeting with the right people. And I found a guy who was in a common circle. He grew up in the same type of neighborhood of me, and he had done really well in the business sector. And he was interested in also doing a tequila brand. I heard through the grapevine. And I went and I approached him. And I was like, let's do it together. And, you know, he's a busy, successful man. He was like, yes, cool, amazing, let's do it. And it took me 6 months to get like something done with this guy. And eventually we found that, you know, there was difficulties in making your own brand, but we could sign a deal with a brand and invest in that brand and bring it to the country. And that's where 411 Distributors was born. And we brought in Tequila Ocho into the country. And it was new for me. You know, it was crazy. It was difficult because I was used to selling the biggest and best brands. So people were begging me for Don Julio. You'd have Macro phoning me up asking for Don Julio. Now,
I'm give them something else.
Give them something else that they don't know. Teach the market something. It was so tough. You don't even understand how tough it was. No one wanted this stuff. We had brought it in. We had done. It had a nice bottle. We brought it into South Africa. We had thousands of bottles, and I was like, oh yeah, sweet. Let's go sell it again. You know, just like I had in the past experiences. People did not want this. We eventually got it onto the shelves in the same place I had sold before, which was tough. People didn't want this new tequila. We have enough tequilas. We've got the big brands. We got it onto the shelves, and now I was like, yeah, we got it on the shelves. So it's in Macro, it's in Pick and Pay, it's in Spar, Blue Bottle Liquor, Norman Goodlet's. Oh, now we done. The hard work's done. It sat on those shelves for months. No one bought it. And I had to come up with an idea, like, how do we get this product off the shelves? The easier part was to get it on the shelf. Now the hard part is to get it off the shelves. We had to teach the market a new brand, a new taste, a new idea. And we started embarking on literally, I promise you, rooms like this. We would do tequila masterclasses, explaining how it's made,
You should have brought some. They look tasty.
It's too early for tequila. I have to go to work after this. Do you want to kill me for the day? And we started off slowly. Again, it was master classes, education classes. We would ask restaurants and clubs, we'll give you free product. Let us come in and serve it to your...
Just free?
For free.
Or like promotions?
You don't understand how much free product we had to give just to get into certain places and pay to get into certain places. And then still, I thought after all this education work we did to the market, it still wasn't where I wanted it to be, and I wasn't giving up. So at the end of... Now we hit 2023, right? And we're still not where I want it to be. And I come with an idea, and I think, again, that South African dream, we need to be on that international stage. We're struggling to get our tequila brand off the shelves, so let's partner with the best DJ groups in the world. Partying, December, alcohol, it's all one. You know what I'm saying? DJ groups, music and sneakers, it's all one thing. And I was like, let's put this all together.
So all the companies that you own?
Not all the companies together, but all the ideas, festive, sneakers, festivals, DJs. And I went and I found the company in Cape Town who brings DJ groups to the country. They do Ultra South Africa. They do a few other big festivals. It's called We Are Music and Anything Goes in Cape Town. And I met the guys again. Also, I promise you, these guys didn't answer my phone calls for 6 months. They thought, who on earth is this kid? Like, maybe he just wants a free ticket for black coffee in December, you know? And I didn't stop. I promise you, I would find out where they would go for coffee, and I'd like bump into them and just try chat to them.
Bump into them.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I just try chat to them. And then eventually, one thing led to another, and they gave me a chance. And I said, guys, this is my tequila. Let's do something together. And I was like, I don't want to do, you know, a groove in just a basic groove in December. I want to do something huge. I'm a big dreamer. Let's do something amazing. And at the time in 2023, the biggest DJ group in the world, internationally, in house music was Kind Music. So I don't know if any of you are aware of them, but they're a group of 3 guys who come from Berlin, and I could see that they were just about to. I think even Black Coffee was involved in giving them a chance, but they were just about to skyrocket.
They were about to
I thought they were about to be very big. I didn't think they would be what they are today, to be fair.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, it's going to be a Tequila Ocho Kind Music event, November 2023. And I was way out of my league here. I didn't know what to do in terms of organizing an event, this and that. Anyways, we did it. We did Old Town Station in Johannesburg. We had 8,000 people. And we did the Ostrich Farm in Cape Town, also 8,500 people. And it was a huge success.
You were the brand partner there.
We were the brand partner, but we were also involved in the organization of the event and bringing them to South Africa. Our branding was everywhere. We were involved in the marketing. We were involved in the physical marketing on the day, staging, lighting. It was a crazy experience, but we did it, and that's really, I think, what got the tequila out into the market. And Kind Music today, if you guys want to go search, they are, since then, have become, I can't even explain to you how huge they are. And we were lucky enough to work with them in the early days. And then 2024 started. We worked with a DJ act called Monolink. He had become very, very famous from Burning Man Festival. And we hired out Ethel Gray Park. And we did a concert there. We did an event at the Ostrich Farm again, also like 7,000 people. And it's just been an amazing journey. It's still nowhere near done. And in the midst of all of that, there was still like I said, I've combined it all, but there's still a sneaker love.
I've got an interesting question I want to ask you that I'm thinking about. While you are busy doing all these crazy things,
yes,
where are your parents at the time?
Yeah, so my parents were very, very supportive of all of this. Yeah. And they kind of kept me grounded, kept me focused, grounded. I always had, as a Jew, I always had a Friday night. I had to be home. Saturdays, I wouldn't work, wouldn't be on my phone. And I mean, at times, I think it was very, very tough for them and very, very scary with what was going on. If it wasn't sneakers, then it was a sneaker store. Then if it wasn't a sneaker store, it was going on to selling tequila. Then if it wasn't tequila, it was a tequila festival. I was never ending, and they were like, what's going on? But they really always supported me and looked after me, and it kind of, let me dream and let me have my space, and they created a runway for me in order to be able to take off and fly. And I'm very grateful to them.
What advice would you... Yeah, that's it. What advice do you think you would give to parents who have kids like you?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually mentioned this
because you're special, man. You don't know that.
Thank you.
Very special.
So I mentioned this at the APSA Jewish Achievers Award, and I said to them, to every kid out there who feels they don't belong, every kid who feels that, you'll never make it, and because I don't do well at school, I won't be successful, and because I'm struggling at school, and because I don't fit in, I said, that's not true. I said, being different is your superpower. And if you see being different as a superpower, I promise you can do something exceptional. Because if you see yourself as different and, I can't do it, I can't come speak to Witness Day because I'm different, I'm scared, But if you see it as, I'm different, I don't want to be like everyone else. That's your superpower. And as a parent, I think you just need to embrace, if your child is different, love them. Give them even more love because they're different, they're special. If you had a kid that wasn't different, they'd just be like every other kid, And then they're not special, normal's boring.
Normal is boring.
Normal's boring. So I like I said to the parents, just continue loving, let your children dream. Even if it sounds crazy, you have to give them room to do what they need to do. Not every kid is meant to fit into that mold. I always say I'm a square peg in a round hole. I never fitted into the shape things as a kid, And I really believe you just got to give your kids unconditional love and let them find their own path. Obviously, you have to give guidance and not just step back completely, because I think it can get very messy if you do that. But I think, embrace their passions, find something that they're passionate about and something that you can kind of, engage with them over. And I think, with love, you can really get far. Just back your kids and trust them.
100%. So how then do you transition into setting up Soul Gallery?
So in the midst of all of this tequila madness, I'm sorry, I can give you guys a headache just talking. I've told you I'm ADD.
Be yourself.
In the midst of all of that, I got involved in 2022 with the tequila. I got very involved in a sneaker retailing store in South Africa. We had 5 locations. Luxury sneakers. I don't want to mention them because I actually sold out of them last year.
The ones you're wearing now.
Yes, correct.
Very nice.
I got involved in them. They started off with one location in Ruland Street, and they actually evolved into 4 locations, one in Umhlanga Arches, one in Rosebank Zone, and one in the V&A Waterfront. And I became on a management role there. I actually was running the company at a stage, and it was a very, I learned so much from this business.
You're running it while running your other businesses.
Correct. And I was supplying this business with stock, and I was very, very involved in the business, and eventually then went on to a management role in the business. And I learned a fortune about really, how retail works. It's not hustling. I always used to say I have a spaza shop mentality, buy, sell, quick, trade, this, that.
Make the money
And I
quickly.
had to shift that to, a proper structured business. Like you said, how did you pivot into structured
And
business?
now managing people at the same
Exactly.
time.
So
and all of
it
that.
taught me a lot. Unfortunately, at the end of last year, me and my partner had a falling out due to, personal beliefs. And I kind of exited that business, which had 5 locations, but it was like my baby. It was a huge, huge knock I took.
That how many locations?
5 locations at that stage. And it was a big business. We had sold, I don't even know how many thousands of pairs of sneakers over our 4-year partnership. And it was really painful to leave. It was really, everyone
So you
says...
started with him in 2019.
Exactly, correct.
Yeah. So
And it literally was nothing. It was like a little, I promise you, it was a sneaker spaza shop. It was really, really nothing. And it grew. And it was like my baby. This store was like my baby. It was my identity, I was identified with this brand. And it was a huge knock. I had to exit it over things that I didn't think would be an issue. And it was very, very painful. And it took me a long time to get back on my feet. Even mentally, I was really affected by it. I was like completely...
Have you had any setbacks apart from that one?
This was, I've definitely had major setbacks in my life, but this was a huge one. It really, the carpet was completely thrown from under my feet. I don't know what had hit me, and I had to get back up. And I think that's a good lesson, that I learned, you really just got to get straight back up. And 2024, January of this year, I had, I need to get back up on my feet. Sneakers are my love. I can't just let this go because something really unfortunate happened. I can't get, knocked down by this. Let's see. And from the first day of January 2024, I embarked on finding new partners. I knew the suppliers. I knew what to do with sneakers, but it was really, really, really tough to get this going because this time I wanted to do it in a different way. I wanted to do it Sandton City level. Not Rosebank, not Keys Avenue, not like cool and trendy. I wanted to do it the highest level of luxury. And that's when Soul Gallery was born. The idea of Soul Gallery is that we all have a soul. So there's a sneaker soul, SOLE, but I wanted it to be a bit different as we all have a soul. So I changed it to SOUL. And that's the name of the brand, and it's a gallery. So the sneakers are not sneakers, they're art. Everything that we have in our store is art. And from the beginning of this year, I tried to get this off the ground, and it was really, really, really tough. But eventually found the right investors and the right backers and partners to make it happen. And we opened our first store in Sandton City on the 7th of November. We had a banging opening. We had Casper Nyovest, we had Major League DJs, we had Black Coffee, we had Sona, we had, the list can go on and on of who we had performing and attending this event.
You missed out. You should have had me too.
Witness, we didn't know you'll be at the next one.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it was just an amazing event, to really see like my dreams come to life, in Sandton City being the best destination in Africa, in my opinion. And the New York City of Africa, I call it. And I think that there's such potential in this country, and Soul Gallery is more than just like another fashion store. It was like, I feel like as South Africans, we always put ourselves down and we always are less. So we're always looking at America for, we always want to be like Americans, and we always want to wear what they're wearing, and whatever's hot in America then comes here. And I think to myself, we're so cool here. We don't know they're looking to us for inspiration. Americans are always, what's going on in Africa? Let's do African this, African inspired this. For them, we cool, but we're looking at them. You know what I'm saying? And that's where Soul Gallery comes from. It's about bringing the international offering to Africa so that as South Africans, we don't need to be less than anywhere else in the world. We're on the same level. But then on the other hand, we've got local designers, which is my concept, is that I want to mix international designers with local designers and then take Soul internationally with South African inspired designs.
I mean, you're already doing some international stuff. I mean, looking at the fact that you've also fed soldiers in Gaza. I mean, to go from South Africa all the way to Israel to do that, that says something about your international mindset.
Correct,
right?
correct.
So is that something you were taught at home, or it's something where you've always been looking out into the whole world and saying, where do I add value as an individual?
It's not just adding value in a business sense. It's, I think, a big motto that I live by that my father taught me was with blessings come responsibilities. And I believe in that strongly. And I believe that strongly right here. There's so much that I can do and we can do to give back. And that's what a lot of what Soul Gallery falls into. We want to really give back to our community, to the designers that come right from where we are and put them on the international stage. You know, put a designer who, you know, we have Vera card holders in our store, for an example. It's genuine South African ostrich card holders. It would be in a market technically, but we put it in Sandton City. Do you know what I'm saying? Sure. And it's bringing people up with us. That's what we want to do. We want to bring people up with us and South Africans up with us. And we really, I mean, we'll have next year launching is Soul Gallery Outreach, which is going to be going into the townships and finding young entrepreneurs that we can maybe help, you know, whether it be with school fees or whether it be with clothing or sneakers, or just to get them where they need to be, help people with driver's license, just to get that next push, you know, to get that job, to get that interview, to really try help them as to on their journey and see what we can do for them. That's I mean, Soul Gallery, it's just at the beginning. We've had we invite all of you to please come visit us in Sandton. It's a beautiful store. It's got a real atmosphere, and I think it's probably one of the nicest stores in Sandton City, hands down. And we're opening in the V&A next year in the waterfront.
Yeah.
We'll be opening in Gateway soon after that, in Durban, and hoping for Mall of Africa too. But it's really exciting, and I would love you all to come see it, because I see Soul Gallery as a big moment for South Africans, not just for myself. Like I said at the beginning of this interview, that if I can do it, anyone can do it. As hard as it may seem and crazy and chaotic as this interview is, I promise you, if you put your head down and focus and never give up, you can do it. And seek no approval is my main line, as I like to say. You can't seek approval.
No approval. Right. So as we draw to a close, right, what advice do you have? I mean, you are young yourself, but what advice do you have to other young people that might be struggling with some of the issues you've struggled with, and also want to see themselves as people that are of significance and adding value to society? So
I think definitely, you know, how I have a lot of people come to me and be like, I'm going to drop out of school and be like you. I want to be like you. And I'm like, guys, it's not for everyone to drop out of school. You need education. Education is important. As much as it wasn't for me and I couldn't do it, I think it's a very important thing that you must follow the traditional path in certain ways. But while you're following the traditional path, find something you're passionate about. So whether it be sneakers, music, art, sports, find something you're super passionate about and focus on that. Focus at becoming the best at what you love, not something that you don't love. If you love soccer, practice every single day. And then, you know, you could be the next superstar from your community. Or if you love sneakers, just keep trying. I promise you, put it on your WhatsApp status, put it on your Instagram. Keep trying to hustle sneakers over and over again, because eventually there's that one moment that you look behind and you're like, oh, wow, I went from one shoe to selling 10,000 pairs of shoes. You know what I'm saying? Follow the process and just never give up, and find something that you love and you're passionate about. Because if you're not passionate and you don't love it, how can you give it your all?
Do you have any closing words for maybe give these guys advice? See how they're looking at us.
Closing words is just we'll have Panado outside waiting for everyone with a glass of water if anyone's got headaches. No, closing words just to thank everyone. Really, I'm humbled to be here, and thank you all for coming to listen to us and witness. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's really an honor and a privilege, and I'm excited to see what we can do together and what goes out on your YouTube page. I've been following some of your videos and seeing what goes on, and I'm just very honored to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
I appreciate you, man. Well done.
So much.
Well done. Isn't that phenomenal? And what we ought to do is duplicate and replicate and have as many young people like this as possible, as much as we can, throughout the country, throughout the world, throughout Africa. I mean, that's the only way that our country can prosper. It's the only way Africa can prosper. Nobody is coming to give us solutions. We've got our own solutions right here, and our human capital, the people that we have in our country, are phenomenal. And we have to do whatever it takes to unearth that potential out of each and every one of us. Okay, let's give him a round of applause again. And if you are watching this online and you're not inspired, I don't know what's going to inspire you, but sit it out. Listen to more interviews similar to this one. We interviewed dynamic, inspirational people in South Africa. Sorry, there was just a bit of feedback. We interview change makers, entrepreneurs, and business people that are doing amazing things in South Africa and abroad. From myself and my team, broadcasting from the It's More Than Just Money Business Breakfast in partnership with TAF, Trust for Urban Housing Finance. Shout out to them. In partnership with them, It's More Than Just Money. We'll see you again in the next episode. Ciao, ciao.